Hi friends, so today we're going to make a 5-minute weekly journal drawing closer to our Savior Jesus Christ. And I have an Etsy listing with all the graphics, and it's a digital tutorial with exact measurements, detailed instructions, lots of pictures along the way, and then it has all the graphics that you see here. So let's get started. So these are the pages that are in the digital file, and they've got gray corner cut marks. And so you'll want to cut on those corner marks and make sure your pages are exactly all the same size. And each of these pages, they're printed on the back as well, and there's instructions how to do that as well. You have to know your printer, how you load the paper, and so it will come out facing the same way, but on the back page. So I've pre-printed all these and I'm cutting them all out, and there's a wide margin that stays on the left. And so there I'm showing you that the wide margin, even when you turn the page, is still on the same edge. So there's all my pages all cut out with the wide margin on the same side when you turn the page. I'm going to set those aside. So now you need 2 chipboard covers, 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and you need 2 of those. You can use light or medium weight chipboard. Then you need 2 decorative papers for the covers that measure 6 inches by 10 inches. And so what I'm doing here is I'm going to put some double-sided tape all along the edge of each of those chipboard pieces, and then a layer down the middle as well. And you can use liquid glue if you choose to do that. On the covers, I just kind of like to use the double-sided tape, but it does whatever you prefer. So as you can see, I'm putting a strand down there too, and I do both of those pieces of chipboard. Now I'm just taking off the backing. Once I get all those pieces off, then I will put it on the decorative paper, and the inside piece of the chipboard is flush with the inside edge of your decorative paper. And then the other one will be exactly the same, but a mirror image of it. So I've got those both adhered to the paper, so now I'm putting double-sided tape all along that edge of that paper that borders the chipboard. All 3 of those sides. And then I'm going to use my little Fisker's finger blade and miter the corners. And I go almost to the corner of the chipboard, but I leave just a little ways away from it. That way it'll cover up your corner completely. And so I'm just cutting right through the tape and the paper. And now I'm just going to bend it and get it all folded along that edge of the chipboard. And like I said, you can use medium weight or lightweight. I've used both. This happens to be the lightweight chipboard. Getting those edges nice and firm and pressed right against that edge. And now I'm going to take off the backings, and I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue as well. I just like everything to be really securely adhered together. So I'll do that on all 3 of those edges on both pieces. Just make sure those are adhered really well down. So as you can see, I've got them both together, and now you flip them over and you keep the middle and you line it up completely even, and you make sure there's a 1/2 inch in between each board. Now this is my 2-inch sticky-sided bookbinding. I actually got this on Temu, and it's super sticky, so you have to be careful and get it right down the first time. So as you can see, I put it right down the middle, and then you turn it over and you fold those ends over in the middle. And now the big piece of decorative paper for the inside measures 11.25 inch by 8 3/8 of an inch. And before you put any glue or tape or anything, you want to make sure it fits, because just depending on how, if it was exactly a 1/2 inch in the middle there, it could vary and you may need to trim it down or something, but looks like mine's going to fit just right. So now I'm going to use my double-sided tape and go all around the edges on this as well. And then I'll put a couple rows in the middle. And then now that I've got the glue or the tape on there, I'm taking off all the backing, and I'm going to use a little bit of my liquid glue in all those blank spots. And when the camera's on and somebody's watching me, it seems to go slow. I can't ever get the end off. So I got those off, and here I'm just putting a bunch of glue. And then you have to lay it down very careful because the tape will grab it immediately. So you have to lay it down just right. And press it all over, and especially down the middle, and that sticky binding will stick in the middle there. And now you just find the edges of both covers and press that in and train that fold there to fold. Same on the other side. And there's your folio, and then you just need to find out which side looks the best and use that as your front. So now I'm going to put the topper on now. So the topper cardstock needs to be 3 3/4 inches by 4 3/4 inches. I couldn't write that on the black cardstock because it wouldn't show. And that makes it 1/8 inch all around the topper that comes in the digital file. And I'm just eyeballing it and making sure I get it in the middle of that section there. And then we're ready to work on the next part. So the notepad sleeve measures 2 inches by 8 inches. And you need to score that at 1 7/16 on both ends. And then you just fold those in. And then the notebook topper is 5 inches by 2 inches. So you just get that top piece that folds over. And I got these notepads at Walmart in a 6-pack. But you just line that up with the edge of that little black piece that comes down. Then you fold it around the edge and press that top part. And then you put lots of glue on the top part and the back. And then you can see it and then I'm just kind of standing it on its end to get that really fully adhered. Once you have that, then you slide that sleeve on, and you put some more double-sided sticky tape on the edges. And then you'll put a little liquid glue in the middle. And the reason I do it that way is so the liquid glue doesn't come out and, get somewhere where it's not supposed to be. So I've got the edges done up with the glue. So make sure it's slid up all the way, and then put your glue on. And then make sure you've got it on the right side and put it right in the center and glue those pieces down. And there is your sleeve that holds in your notebook, and it's refillable. When that notepad's gone, you can put a new one in. And now here is the large pocket cardstock piece. And that is I'm trying to find my measurements here. Oh, the large journal pocket is 6 5/8 inches by 4 11/16 inches. And then you score that at 1/2 inch and then 11/16 inch on the left side, the right side, and the bottom. And then you fold in all those score lines. So the large pocket topping paper there measures 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches, and that will fit right in that middle section just perfectly. So then you score all your lines and fold them in. Excuse me. And then I'm going to put some more of the thinner double-sided tape on all 3 of those edges that will be folded under. And this is how you will secure your pocket onto your book. So now just take off that backing. And then fold them in the way they're going to be, and then you just want to put a little dot on the corner there just to secure that corner just a little bit more. I mean, it's still got the sticky tape, but then I use my scissors to kind of hold that piece up to push against it so I can stick that glue and the tape together there. So now I've got the little pocket. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue so it's really going to be secured in there, and you line that up with the bottom left and bottom of that cover piece. You gently press down, but not too much. You don't want to ruin that fold. Now I'm just using a bone folder to push that down inside. And now the smaller pocket is, the cardstock piece is 5 1/4 inches by 2 3/4 inches. And the decorative paper on top is 5 inches by 2 1/2 inches. And so on the decorative paper, you measure over 7/8 of an inch from the left top, and then up from the bottom right, the same amount, 7/8 inches. And then you cut that piece off. And then the same with the cardstock, but you measure up 1 inch and over from the top left 1 inch, and then you cut that piece off. So you do the same exact process, but it's just 1 inch on the cardstock and 7/8 of an inch on the decorative paper. So now we're going to glue that on top of the cardstock, and it should have 1/8 inch roughly border of cardstock all around it. So now you're going to glue as close to the edge as you can on the bottom and the left edges. And then that lines up with the bottom pocket. And just secure that on. So now let's work on our journal. So you want to make sure it's all in order and lying flat, but especially the left edge, because that's the side that will go in. And you need to punch your holes. You can do it whatever way you want, whatever kind of hole punch you've got. Mine that I'm using here goes up 2 inches, so I'm going up 2 inches from the bottom and then down 2 inches from the top. And I'm getting the edge level with my punch each time, so I'm getting my holes pretty close to the same amount on every single group of pages. Okay, so now you just get those holes all lined up again. Now the journal back chipboard piece is 5 inches by 8 inches. It's the same size as the journal. The journal binding is 2 by 8 inches, and you're going to want to score that long ways 3/4 inches in, and then 15/16 inches in. Then you just fold on those score lines, and on the wider part you put glue, and that's the piece that will attach to the chipboard. The other piece that's not as wide will come up top on the top of the journal. So I'm just erasing my little pencil marks there, and it lines up with that fold mark there, and that's where the journal's going to tuck inside. So now you need to make sure you get the holes exactly even. So I'm doing the same process with my hole punch on this part. And then you'll also need to do it on the bottom chipboard piece. And then those holes should match up pretty close. They might be off just slightly, and that doesn't matter as long as there's a hole clear through. So now I'm just grabbing a long piece of ribbon. I ended up getting way more than I needed, but that's okay. And I almost forgot to put this little cover page on. And it explains what this 5-minute weekly journal is and how you can draw closer to Jesus Christ. So I'm putting that on top, and then now I'm going to put the ribbon down through one hole and then up from the back on the other hole. And as you can see, it's way too long. Now you just make sure that's laying flat and straight in the back. And then I'm just tying a knot here. So when I go to tie the second part of the knot, I accidentally let loose a little bit, and it's looser than I wanted. So I have to undo it here, and then I retied it. And then you just kind of clip off those ends, and that should fit nicely inside that pocket. And now the last thing we're going to do is the bookmark, and the bookmark measures. So the bookmark decorative paper is 2 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches, because the bookmark that comes in the digital file is 2 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And then the cardstock that goes underneath needs to be 2 1/2 inches by 5 3/4 inches. So once you get all 3 layers of those adhered together, you punch a hole at the top, and then just take some ribbon and in the middle, fold it and pull that loop through, and then pull both those strands through the loop and then pull it snugly. And then just trim those at an angle or however you want. And that just tucks inside that other pocket. And there is our folio, and it turned out beautifully. And I hope this inspires you to do something similar. Be sure to check out the link below. And thanks for watching. You have a whimsical day.